Hi Year 6, welcome to Thursday the 18th of June 2020. Today we're going to continue to apply a variety of writing techniques to our writing because we're going to continue our story today. I have been really impressed with the first paragraphs that I've seen, and I think your new teachers are going to be very happy. So we need to continue on that same motivation and determination to do your best using all of the things that we've looked at already, your plans, your dad waivers, all of the features. So we need to make sure that we're still working really hard today. Okay, I'm just going to recap our tasks card again, just to go over with you all of the things that you need to be using in your writing. I hope you use some in your first paragraph. I did see some people have used it, which is really good. So let's start with the first box. You must begin a sentence with whilst. So you could say whilst he was sleeping, or whilst mum was making dinner. You can just use it as a beginning, as an opening. Okay, you must use an expanded noun phrase, which we know, remember, is where we are describing a noun and we are extending that description out. You must use a question mark, we know what question mark is, and you must use the word during. Then we have, you must begin a sentence with a verb. Remember, verb is an action word. You must use 3 or more adjectives before a noun. You must use a sound word, onomatopoeia. Remember, onomatopoeia was where we have words such as bang, crash, hiss, the words that sound as the thing that they're describing, as the sound that they're describing. You must begin a sentence with an adverb. Remember, an adverb is an adjective that describes a verb, usually ends in ly. You must use a relative clause. Remember what they are, using who or that or which. You start with in a blink of an eye, which is when you are talking about something happening very quickly. Okay, so that's what that means. Use a sentence that only has 3 words. So in the end, you could have he had none. Like I did, I used he had no one. I know that's not 3 words, but it's a short sentence. You must use a simile or a metaphor. We know what they are. You must include a semicolon, brackets, and ellipses. Remember, semicolon is used to separate clauses, brackets is used to add additional information, and ellipses is there to add tension, drama, or a cliffhanger. Okay, so those 3 things need to be there. You must start a sentence with a feeling word. So remember, a feeling word is happily, so it could be like an adverb where you're showing feeling. Sadly, you might start with feeling anxious, with nerves running through his body, something to show feeling or emotion. You must start a sentence with an adverbial phrase. We've done work on adverbial phrases before. Remember, they tell us when, how, where, or why something's happening. And you need to use short sentences. Okay, so please make sure you're using this now in this lesson. It's really important that by the end you've ticked all of these boxes in your writing. Okay, really important. And if you need help on that, you can email me your questions and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, so I've also found some tips from an author called Joe Bunting, and I think he's got some really good ideas in order to make story writing really fun and to make it the best that you can. So there are 5 tips that we can use for our writing. So number 1, to create suspense, set up a dramatic question. So here you are hitting your rhetorical question on dad waivers, aren't you? And on the list of features that have been sent as well. A dramatic question is something like, is he going to make it, or is she going to get the man of her dreams? By putting your character's fate in doubt, you make the reader ask, what happens next? To do this well, you need to carefully restrict the flow of information to the reader. Nothing destroys drama like oversharing. So if you are going to create tension in your story and want to leave people wanting more, then you need to add a question in there. Something that's going to make the reader really think. Maybe something such as, should he enter that door, what do you think would be behind it? Okay, just like that is a really standard horror story like kind of question, but it gets the reader really involved in the story. Okay, and you need to restrict the flow of information given to the reader. So don't give everything away. And if you add a question in there, you kind of add in a bit of mystery. Okay. Number 2, use show not tell. We've done a lot of work on show not tell. Okay. So when something interesting happens in your story that changes the fate of your character, don't tell us about it. Show the scene. So it might be like the character's having a fight, but don't then tell the reader what the effect is of that fight. Show it in the action, in the dialogue between the characters. Okay. Your readers have a right to see the best parts of the story play out in front of them. Show the interesting parts of your short story and tell the rest. And that will keep the reader really engaged in the story, because they will be able to see for themselves and figure out things for themselves, which makes reading really, really interesting for them. Number 3, good dialogue comes from 2 things: intimate knowledge of your characters and lots of rewriting. Each character must have a unique voice, and to make sure your characters all sound different, read each character's dialogue and ask yourself, does this sound like my character? If your answer is no, then you have some rewriting to do. Also, with your speaker tags, try not to use anything but he said and she said. Speaker tags like he exclaimed, she announced, and he spoke vehemently are distracting and unnecessary. The occasional he asked is fine though. Okay, now I might disagree with this slightly, because it is good, I think, to add in some description of how things are being said. I understand that you shouldn't have too much, but if you are having intense dialogue and you want the reader to understand how things are being said, I would agree that you can put in exclaimed, cried, shouted, just to make it a bit more varied. Okay, so I don't really agree with the second part of that advice. Okay, let's move on to... Most professional writers write 3 drafts or more. Don't share it with anyone. Your first draft is your chance to explore your story and figure out what it's about. Now, if you want to write a quick first draft before you write a second one, that's absolutely fine. And then just send me the second one. That is absolutely fine. Okay. Your second draft isn't for polishing, although many new writers will try to polish as soon as they can to clean their embarrassing first draft. Instead, the second draft is meant for major structural changes and for clarifying the plot and characters of your novel or the key ideas of your non-fiction book. The third draft is for deep polishing. Now is when everything starts to gel. This is the fun part, but until you write the first 2 drafts, polishing is probably a waste of your time. So I would agree with this. I know in school we tend to do 2 drafts, and a lot of you moan and whinge when we have to do a second draft. Okay, I think drafting is really, really crucial in creating a beautifully written story. So write the first draft, and it can be quite rough around the edges, because it's you putting down everything from your plan onto your story and getting that flow right, the paragraph structure, all the bits that you need to be in their right place. The second draft, like the author said, you need to then use to structure your story a bit more. Add in some more details, check that you've used the features, put those in, and really bulk up your story, okay, with lots of lovely description. And then when you've done that, you can send it to me, okay? And when we've done all of, when I've looked at it, we will go into editing, which we will do tomorrow. So if you can write 2 drafts today, that will be perfect. If you can't do it today, it's okay. You can spread it out over the next few days. Do not worry. Okay. Number 5, you write better when you know someone will be reading what you've written. If you write in the dark, no one will know if you aren't giving your writing everything you have. But when you share your writing, you face the possibility of failure. This will force you to write the best story you possibly can. One of the best ways to write a story and share your writing is to read it to someone at home. They can give you their honest opinion. Okay, so why don't you read your work to someone in your house? Okay, not the first draft, the second draft. Okay, read it to them and say, look, this is my story, what do you think? Or give it to them to read, whatever you want to do. Send it in to us as well, so we can have a read of it and see. Remember, your story is going to be read, so you need to write it for your reader. You need to write it so that your reader will enjoy it, and so you need to do your best. Okay, so it's really, really important that you are writing the best that you possibly can. And you need to send in all your work to the Year 6 email address, and I really cannot wait to see what you have written. Okay, so all the best. Take your time, work on your writing slowly, and build it up and make it amazing. Okay, I will speak to you tomorrow.